Hi, I'm Adam.
And I'm Brian.
And we are
Drinking in the Basement.
Welcome to our second episode. I hope you enjoyed our first episode where we tasted Bell's beer. What do you think about it, Brian?
Bell's beer was great. I still really enjoyed that Two-Hearted Ale. We'll be buying some more from Antioch Fine Wine and Liquors.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If you didn't get to see the first Bell's episode, you can view it at drinkinginthebasement.com, which hopefully is being shown right here if we figured out how to do text on this thing. You could also check out different things that are coming up at Antioch Wine and Liquors at AntiochWine.com, which hopefully is now also flashing right here. All right, so
what's on tap for today?
Well, on tap for today, we're going to be tasting Buffalo Trace Bourbon. But before we get to that, everyone in our live studio audience today will be receiving a coaster from WineBabe.com. Maybe you've never heard of WineBabe.com. Well, that's a failed venture. Hopefully, Drinking in the Basement won't go the same way as WineBabe.
So let's go
Maybe it'll come back someday.
Hopefully. So let's go see our live studio audience.
Brian, I really appreciate the support we get from the live studio audience.
It's great they come out for our shows.
Awesome. Now, some upcoming events at Antioch Wine and Liquors. First, we had to cancel the Reserve Red tasting. The President's Day weekend just didn't work out for us. But we're going to be tasting a lot of the wines that we would have tasted at that tasting on March 12th from 12 to 4 in the store. Again, you can check that out at AntiochWine.com. Becky? Then after that, on April 16th, from 1 to 5, we have our spring tasting.
Which is always a good time.
Yeah, it's usually a riot, ton of people. Don't miss that one. Again, that's April 16th from 1 to 5.
A way to celebrate Tax Day.
Yes, it is. All right, so we're going to be tasting now Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Brian, you want to?
Sure.
This is one of our favorite bourbons at Antioch Liquors. We bought several barrels. They give us a little sign. We bought several barrels in the past from them. We buy the whole barrel when we really like one of the products, and they bottle in different sizes for us. They send us the samples in these, handy dandy little
flasks.
Brian and I have already started to pour some of these out. Is that a question I hear from the studio audience?
I think we have a question. We have to go to our audience. Yes, you in the red, you have a question.
Yes. What is a bourbon?
Brian, I think you have an answer to that question.
Well, luckily I have notes. So, Mr. Mo, bourbon is a whiskey. Bourbon whiskey has to be made in the United States to be called bourbon. It must be made out of at least 51% corn. Must be bottled at least 40% alcohol by volume or 80 proof. And it must be aged, as a key point, must be aged in new charred oak barrels. That's a very important characteristic of bourbon whiskey. And to be Kentucky bourbon whiskey, or Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, must be made only in Kentucky.
It also has to be aged at least 2 years to be called a straight bourbon whiskey.
And Buffalo Trace is aged, I believe, 8 years.
Correct. Another thing about Buffalo Trace, the barrels that are used to make Buffalo Trace are sent to Samuel Adams, which ages their Utopia beer in the Buffalo Trace barrels. Just kind of a difference between bourbon whiskey and Scotch whiskey too. Scotch whiskey sometimes uses some of the old bourbon barrels to make their scotches. They could also use any kind of barrel. It doesn't have to be new charred oak. Sometimes I've seen them use Sassicaia wine barrels or Chattanooga pop barrels in making some of the high-end scotches.
Oh, very interesting. I did not know that.
All right, so we also want to thank Buffalo Trace for providing us the samples, providing me the T-shirt, and also the little Buffalo Trace bar mat. So let's get to it. We have 5 different single barrels of bourbon whiskey here. We poured them into cups, and we're ready to taste, I think.
All right.
Now, one of the ways I like to, turning my back to the camera, which is not good, but one of the ways I like to taste bourbon is first I want to smell, give it a smell. But unlike wine, you don't want to put your nose all the way into it because all you're going to smell is alcohol. So kind of just above it. nice. One of the ways you can get it to open up a little bit is if you add a little bit of water to it. So I just take like a thimble full of water, add it to my whiskey,
That does open it up. Changes the nose on it.
and you get, you bring out the odors from the malt. I've actually been to the Buffalo Trace Distillery, and I had the opportunity to put my hand in the sweet corn mash as it was coming into the huge
I thought
vat
you were going to
in
put your
which
hand in the machine that charged the barrels, but
no.
thankfully that did not happen.
And actually it tastes exactly like cornbread. Alright, so this is number 24 on our number of bourbons.
Very rich tasting, very smooth, and a very strong oak flavor.
Yeah, this is a little, this one comes across to me as strong.
And hot on the finish.
Yes. Yeah,
To use a wine term.
This is a little bit of bite to that one.
Now, if anyone saw the last Drinking in the Basement with the pours on the beer side of things, I can rest assure you that will not be happening again tonight.
No,
This is a little
tough
stronger.
stuff. Buffalo Trace is 90 proof. Some of the other ones they make, which are really good, are like our George Stagg, which is released. It's an antique collection bourbon. It's released a couple times a year. That one is right out of the barrel, so that can be anywhere from 140 proof and up. That's some tough stuff.
Now on
They
this
also
one,
make Pappy Van Winkle, which is also an excellent whiskey.
now on this number
This
25,
is now number 25.
I'm not picking up nearly the richness on the nose that I picked up on number 24.
Oh, there's less of a nose on this whiskey.
Thinner, not as rich and malt flavored as
I get a little
24.
maybe more vanilla, maybe a little more caramel in this one. All right.
Not as hot though. Less of
No.
an alcohol.
Yes,
less of a burn.
Less of a bite on that one.
So if you don't want the burn, number 25 is probably for you.
All right, let's go to number 26. These are just done in order. They're actually on the sample bottle. You can kind of see where the barrel location is, the date that it was taken out for us, and then a barrel number on it.
This has a much more floral aroma than the first one was much richer, wood oak nose. The second one didn't have much nose, but less of a burn.
This has
More lighter, lighter.
the most smell to it.
Yes, but not a heavy smell.
All right, now this one has the most, to me, like the most caramel to it.
A little bit of earth, wood. There's a little bit of wood on the aftertaste too. So far, this may be my favorite to date. We're through the first
All right.
3.
The staff at Antioch Fine Wine and Liquors has already tasted most of
That's a
these.
very
I
good
have not, and made their selections. And when Brian and I finish with our selections, we're going to come to consensus and let you know which barrel we're taking.
26 is very good.
I also like the nose on 27 a lot.
Similar to 26.
Yes.
So far, the first 4, the richest nose has been the first one, weakest has been the second. Both the second and third very low on the burn, on the aftertaste burn. The first one was very strong, very hot, as they say.
I like 27 a lot also.
Similar to 26, smooth, even less of a burn.
Right now,
Much smoother.
27 might be my favorite. All right, moving on to the last one.
I may have to go back and try 26 and 27 again.
That's what we're here for.
Because we're
Drinking in the basement.
And if you've heard the noise in the background,
That would be a sump pump.
yes, and also there's the occasional sound of a vacuum cleaner upstairs. Just ignore that.
Does your wife know you're here?
My on with the tasting.
All right.
Number 28.
Because one of us has some poker to play tonight.
And one of us eventually has to go home. Not much going on in this one. The nose wasn't as
No.
full as 26 or 27.
All right, I think I have my order.
So
let's hear Brian's order first.
So my order from least favorite to favorite.
Sure.
Let's say my least favorite was number 25. While it was smooth and didn't have a lot of burn on it, there wasn't much of a nose and much depth to the flavor. I did like the nose on 24, but the alcohol burn was just too much for me. I think it would be very tough to drink. So that would be my second least favorite. So in the top three, I would probably say this would be my next one, 28. Had a similar nose, a little bit weaker than these two, and no burn on the finish, so I like that. Very tough between 26 and 27, but if I had to pick one to buy, I'd probably go with 27, the fourth one. A little bit richer than 26 and a little less burn on the finish than 26.
I'm going to go back just real quick to 26 and 27.
As will I, however I have to report.
All right, so I mostly agree with Brian. I'm going to put 24 as my least favorite because just too much burn to it, too harsh. Maybe it'll get better with a little more age in the barrel. My second least favorite was 25. I just felt there was not too much going on with it, not a lot of flavors. Third was again, just like Brian on the third one, was 28. Again, weak nose, but I thought that the malt itself was pretty tasty. I would have no problem with drinking this one. I really like 26 and 27. They're pretty close. I also prefer 27, I think. It's got a little more caramel to it.
And less burn. Again, less burn.
And 26, I would put 26 as the second, 27 as my favorite. So let's just take a little break here, and we're going to go to tally up the results, and we'll be right back with you with the barrel that wins. Pause. All right, so Buffalo Trace gave me a little handy-dandy scoring sheet for me to tally up all the results, and I have everything that the staff at Antioch Wine and Liquors has tasted here. Interesting that it's pretty much a runaway. Number 26 is by far the winner here. In second place is 27, the one Brian and I like the best, but we still like 26 as well. So it looks like 26 is the barrel we're going to be ordering.
Congratulations.
We'll have some information on drinkinginthebasement.com about pricing and when it's going to be available. We placed the order now, probably won't be in the store for a couple months, but you'll be able to get that exact barrel at Antioch Wine and Liquors. We'll also have a couple bottles open for people to try in the store.
That sounds like great. Call me when they're there, and we'll try it again, maybe on camera. Drinking in the store.
All right, we'll do that. So remember, look for Buffalo Trace. Even if it's not a single barrel Buffalo Trace, I think this is a real consistent bourbon and one of my favorites. It's usually around $26 or so for a bottle of this size, 750 milliliter. We have a phone
call from our internet audience already.
I guess you can
How
tell
about
that this
that?
really is
Drinking in the basement.
We'll see you next time.
Good night.